Hey everyone, welcome to Grey's Anatomy, episode number 3. In this one, we're going to talk all about the vertebral column and the spinal cord. To start out, let's learn what the function of our vertebral column is. The vertebral column is what allows us to support our body weight, maintain our posture, and it protects our spinal cord. Specifically, the vertebral arch is what protects our spinal cord, and that is made up of the lamina and the pedicle. Now let's learn about the 3 main abnormalities that occur in the vertebral column. First, we have scoliosis, which is defined as lateral deviation of the verts. How I remember this one is that scoliosis starts with an S, and whenever you have scoliosis, your vertebral column looks like an S. So it's going to go like this, instead of straight down your back. Next, we have lordosis, which is defined as an increased lumbar curvature. So your lumbar region is your low back. So I remember this one because if you do an L like you did when you were little, when you have a little curly Q at the end, that's what your back will look like. You'll have an extra curved banana back at the bottom. Last, we have kyphosis. Kyphosis is an increased curvature in the thoracic region posteriorly. So whenever I think of kyphosis, I think of, a little old lady or a little grandma who kind of looks like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. That's kyphosis. I'm sure you're wondering how many vertebrae that we have. So let's jump into that next. The number all depends on what region of the body you're looking at. In your cervical region, or neck, we have 7. In your thoracic region, which is your chest area, we have 12. In your lumbar region, which is your lower back, we've got 5. And then in your sacrum, you have 5. And in your coccyx, which is the tailbone, we've got 3 to 5. If you were to walk down the street and see a vert just laying on the ground, believe it or not, you might be able to identify it by the end of this video. Each region has its own unique characteristics that will help you to tell them apart from the rest. In this picture, you have C1 and C2, your first 2 cervical vertebrae. As you can see, these are special and different from each other. The first one on the left is the atlas. This one is special because it has no spinous process. A process is anything that sticks out from a bone. On the right side, we have C2, which we call the axis. As you can see, this has something sticking up over on the anterior portion of the vertebra. That is called the dens. The dens sticks up and allows for rotation. The part that you see sticking out posteriorly is called a spinous process. As you'll see in a second, all cervical verts have a bifid spinous process, which just means that they split when they come to an end. In addition to those special features, both the atlas and the axis have transverse foramen, also known as holes, that are on the lateral side of the vertebra. C3 through 7 are going to look like the picture that you see on the left, both the top and bottom. All the cervical vertebrae, as I said before, have a split spinous process, also known as a bifid spinous process. They also are going to have those same transverse foramen, which are the holes lateral to the body of the vertebra. In the middle, we have the thoracic vertebrae. Like we said earlier, there's 12 of these. What's unique about these is that they have long spinous processes and are angled downward, as you can see in the bottom picture. To me, it looks like a giraffe. These also have costal facets, which allow for the attachment of the ribs, also known as the costals. On T1 through T10, you're also going to find transverse processes. On the far right, we have the lumbar verts. As you can see, those have massive bodies compared to the others. They also are missing transverse foramen and costal facets. Instead, they have extra processes that allow for muscle attachment. The last 2 that we have are the sacrum and the coccyx. As you can see, all the verts are going to be fused together and look like they're one piece. Now, let's learn about the 2 main longitudinal ligaments that are associated with the vertebra. First, we have the anterior longitudinal ligament, which extends from the occipital bone, which is the back of your head pretty much, down to the sacrum. This is a strong ligament. Its main function is to prevent hyperextension of your vertebral column. An example of hyperextension is whiplash. When someone gets hit really hard from behind in a car crash, their head could slam backwards, and that is hyperextension. Our posterior longitudinal ligament does just the opposite. Its function is to prevent hyperflexion and also disc herniation. So this one is narrower and a little weaker, and it's on the posterior side of your vertebral column, and this one extends from C2 to your sacrum. The anterior side is trying to prevent your vertebral column from bending backwards, and your posterior side is trying to prevent your vertebral column from bending forwards. Too much, of course. Now let's talk a little bit about what's actually housed inside of our vertebral column, the spinal cord. The spinal cord's main function is to carry information to and from the brain. The spinal cord proper ends at the first or second vertebra in your lumbar region. As it ends, it kind of comes to a little point called the conus medullaris. It kind of comes down like this, and I remember it because it looks like a little ice cream cone. If you were to just kind of snip it up, put a little scoop on top, it's great. Conus medullaris. From there down, you've got a whole bundle of nerves coming down, and that's called the cauda equina. If you were to translate that, it actually translates to horse's tail. So it makes sense. It really does look like a horse's tail because you just have a big cluster of little nerves coming off of the spinal cord proper. Coming off your spinal cord, you have spinal nerves, and these are what carry information to and from the spinal cord so that it can get sensory information and send out your motor information. You have a total of 31 pairs of spinal nerves, and the number in each region correlates with the number of verts in each region, except for the cervical region. So the cervical region, as we now know, only has 7 verts, but you're going to have 8 pairs of spinal nerves. And also the coccyx. The coccyx has 3 to 5 verts, but they're fused together and it's an itty bitty bone. So that one only has 1 pair of spinal nerves. As always, thank you so much for watching, and feel free to comment anything that you'd like to see in the future. I hope that this one helps, and I'll see you in the next one.